it's really hard to learn a script, but it's also really hard to be in business without a script. And you don't have to memorize the script. Like I just created a new script today, memorized, role played it, practiced it with my coach. And then I started making calls. I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I got to ask my coach this question. I got to ask this question. I'm like, ooh, at dinner, I'm going to ask Cody about this. Because if you don't have somebody to talk about sales with, you are not going to make sales. And the problem is that people don't want to say mean things to other people. So it's like, hey, here's the role play. What's the review? Oh, you did a great job. And then the person gets on the phone the next day. They're like, dude, I did 180,000 calls. I had 4 billion conversations. I thought I was doing a great job, right? Like if I'm doing such a good job, why am I still getting hung up on? And the thing is that if you're going to role play, I want you guys to have standards where you're not going to be nice. You're not going to be mean, but you're not going to be nice. Like I don't need Cody to tell me like, Vic, you did a great job today. I need Cody to be like, yo, Vic, and this is where
Run it again.
Run it again.
Run it again.
Run it again. And bro.
You're listening to the #1 real estate podcast in the world, where we talk with real estate professionals all across North America about their wins, losses, lessons, stories, help you win in your local market today. My name is Cody from Sheridan Street. I am joined with Vikram Deol of the Real Estate Sales Academy on a solo episode. No guests today, but we're going to jam about role playing because this is something that Vikram and I have jammed a lot about over the last little while, about the power of words, the power of language, and the power of practicing, not practicing on the client, practicing with somebody so that you can effectively communicate what you're trying to communicate. You can ask better questions. So Vic, you're doing a lot of role plays right now and you're seeing a lot of success with your clients. You actually sent me a message, or you posted about how one of your clients got two listing appointments. Yeah, from language. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, man. Like, so sure. Sharon and I were talking about this the other day too. And most agents that call expireds, the reason they hate it is because they're using a script that really doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like, I have a buyer for your home. All of a sudden, the day the property goes off the market, you get 900 calls with 80% of the agents saying, I have a buyer for your home. And the guy's like, wait a minute, where was the buyer at first? And when you walk into the house, it's very incongruent because you have a stack of papers and you're trying to get to the kitchen table, and the seller has got the house ready for a showing, and they're irritated because you're like the 9th person who's come over that's trying to pitch them on a listing. And so you're already starting the relationship out wrong. And I remember I got my biggest listing ever, Cody. It was almost $4.5 million. It was listed with 5 or 6 of the other like top agents. I'm talking like $200, $300 million producers, and the house never sold. And it was a nice house, great view. And when I called the seller, I was just really honest with him. I'm like, hey man, like, Asian guy, super cool. Saturday morning, I was like, hey bro, like, has anybody ever actually told you why your house didn't sell? He's like, no. I'm like, it's the furniture. And he's like, really? I was like, yeah, dude, like I've been watching this house for 3 years. And he's like, come over to my house today and I want to talk to you. And I didn't tell him I had a buyer because I didn't. I didn't say anything. So when we talk about language, instead of saying like, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, like we have a potential buyer, or would you like a second opinion, right? Because those are just trigger words. That just creates a tremendous amount of resistance. We have to figure out ways to say things where it sounds natural, right? And it also sounds non-scripted. So it's like, Cody, like, I don't even know if this would be helpful for you. I'm just throwing this out there, but like, has anybody actually told you the real reason other than your home's overpriced and you need to lower your price or the market has shifted? Has anybody actually told you what's caused your home not to sell in today's market? And they're going to 98% of the time, 99% of the time going to say no. Why? Because the agents don't really know what the exposure was or what what was anything. Because if you're an agent and you ask for the listing, like, hey, Cody, how much do you think your home's worth? And Cody, you say $1 million. What am I going to do as the agent?
You're going to take the listing at $1 million.
And I'm going to do everything in my human power to do what? Find comparables. Well, no, I'm going to find the comparables to support. So when you say,
Well, some agents in the market will try to get the listing at $1 million. When maybe we can chat a little bit about that, because I think that is something also that I hear a lot of agents saying is like, I'm losing out listings to people that are listing the property with the agent at $1 million, and then they end up having to go out price reduction. So let's go down that road as well. But like, keep going.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And it's just basically framing it that it's not a big deal. Like, I'm not coming over to list your home. I'm coming over to educate you. If you like what I say, we can talk about possible next steps. Like, I don't even, people are like, well, what do you think my home's worth? And I would always tell them on the phone before I retired, I'd be like, I don't know. Like, well, aren't you a real estate professional? I'm like, yeah. When you have a tick in your car, does the mechanic diagnose it over the phone? And they're like, well, no. And obviously you wouldn't say it like that because that would trigger a resistance. But I'd be like, yeah, like I honestly, like, I don't even know. And if an agent gave you a number, like, I would be like when you go to the mechanic and you have a tick in your engine, the mechanic says, bring the car in so that he can diagnose it. Well, I need to diagnose your property and look at the neighborhood and everything, like look at the information, what your home looks like, blah, 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 blah. I wouldn't be doing you I'd be doing you a disservice by actually coming and giving you a number right now. The other thing is don't ask them for a number. And I tell them this, I say, look, I'm not going to ask you for a number, right? Because I don't want to be skewed. I don't want to be one of those agents that tells you what you want to hear. And then 30, 40, 60, 90 days, I'm like, we need a price reduction. We need a price reduction. We need a price reduction. I want to get you the right exposure by positioning your home the right way right out of the gate. And they're like, exposure, positioning? Because most real estate agents say, what? I have a marketing plan, 97 points. So just teaching like a lot of frameworks. Like there's a lot of different frameworks to break down the average agent's processes. And when you break down processes, you start to chink away the armor that the seller is wearing, and their resistance starts dropping because they're like, wait a minute, that's exactly what this agent said.
Where do you think the resistance in this space right now is coming from when it comes to scripting, it comes to role playing? Because something that we have been, it's funny, like, we often look at our own businesses and we're like, oh, we preach this, but we don't always do it. Like I'll be completely transparent with our business development team. We were role playing maybe once a week.
Right.
I recently took our business development team to daily role plays every single day. And Aldo is like, he's loving it. He's starting to love it. But Aldo said to me the other day, he's like, bro, if I have to hear you say run it again one more time, he's like, it's hilarious. It's funny. So he's getting used to it. But like, we're role playing the key objections, like, money, time, speak to my partner, market. Like, we're role playing all of those things because we're not practicing on the client. We're practicing on and creating frameworks. Like, where do you think right now the hesitation is coming in the marketplace?
I posted something on Instagram yesterday that Sharon reposted. And if you don't have the skills mastered yourself, you can't teach them to other people. And the challenge is that a lot of people sell off of charisma. And I used to be a very charismatic seller, but I also believed in scripts because when I was 17, I had a Cutco script, and you give me that script for an hour and I could probably do a demo 30 years later or 20 years later better than the agents right now that are learning the scripts, right? That are using the scripts. And the reason why is because I internalized it, and I have a sales coach. Like, I have a sales coach, right? Because if I want to be the best in my industry, I need to make sure that I'm always surrounding myself, even if you're at the same level as the top, right? Like, Kobe Bryant can only practice with people that are probably not as good as him. But if you practice with the top percentage of the people in the world, your skills will at least stay that sharp. And what happens is you guys bounce ideas off of each other. Like, hey, why did we just say that? It's like, I don't know, just sounded good. Well, let's break it down and ask the questions like, why are we saying? So the hesitation around scripting comes from, one, the industry doesn't actually truly support and believe it, right? There's a percentage that say and talk about it, but as an industry, there's a lot of teams, there's a lot of brokerages, there's a lot of leaders that say, here's the script. And then I'm the agent and I'm like, I don't know why I'm asking these questions, so I'm going to just do it my way. So you gotta,
and there's no level of accountability. Like something that we've really realized over the last little while, working with a lot of these teams, listening to the live transfers, is some of the, like I have come to realize that the team lead, and we just did a podcast around operations. The team leads are getting overwhelmed with everything, and they're not actually taking time to role play with their teams on a daily basis, where it's like running
7:30 in the morning
every day. Yeah.
7:30
running that role play every day. Running the role play every day. And Sharon has said this multiple times, and I know you're doing this with your agents, and I'm seeing this because I'm seeing you post like, oh, I got this listing appointment. Oh, I got this, or oh, this happened.
You told me I need to post more of the client wins, because I'm like the team leader. I get overwhelmed with things and I don't remember to screenshot things, but I'm doing that because of you, Cody. Thank you.
But that's why you and I jam. And that's the same thing with that's the same, bro. Like mastermind jamming. We're running role plays like hard right now, like objection on money, objection on partner, objection on, it's like, you didn't do that right. Run it again. You didn't do that right. Run it again. And I think that there is so much power in finding somebody in your office, finding somebody on your team that is just going to run it again. It's like, this is the objection we're getting.
Push back on that one in a second for you.
Okay. Well, yeah, like finding somebody, like run it again. Obviously, you need to find a sales coach. I know that's probably where you're going with this. And no. With you. Yeah. So where are you going? Let's talk.
Here's the thing. And I've watched so many role plays, and I've been a part of so many role plays that didn't have a coach or didn't have like an expert in that languaging. And the problem is that people don't want to say mean things to other people. So it's like, hey, here's the role play. What's the review? Oh, you did a great job. And then the person gets on the phone the next day. They're like, dude, I did 180,000 calls. I had 4 billion conversations, and I got the phone. I thought I was doing a great job, right? Like, if I'm doing such a good job, why am I still getting hung up on? And the thing is that if you're going to role play,
is that right? Yeah.
I want you to do what Cody said, but I want you guys to have standards where you're not going to be nice. You're not going to be mean, but you're not going to be nice. Like, I don't need Cody to tell me like, Vic, you did a great job today. I need Cody to be like, yo, Vic, I love you. And this is what
Run it again.
Run it again. And bro, like for those that like, we've traveled the world extensively in the last 7-8 months together. We sit on airplanes. And I remember we were flying from we were flying back to Miami, or we're flying to LA or something. And for 7 hours, on the flight, you and I were just creating scripts and writing scripts and role playing the scripts. And at one point I looked over and you're like sleeping. I'm like, Cody, wake up. You're like, bro, I'm exhausted. I'm like, just listen real quick. And it's really, really hard. It's really hard to learn a script, but it's also really hard to be in business without a script. And you don't have to memorize the script. Like I just created a new script today, memorized, like role played it, practiced it with my coach. And then I started making calls, and like, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I got to ask my coach this question. I got to ask this question. I'm like, ooh, at dinner, I'm going to ask Cody about this because he's got an agency that's doing. If you don't have somebody to talk about sales with, you are not going to make sales. It's just like Jen Kudmore, the money manifester, right? She's like a spiritual woo-woo lady and talks about money. If you don't talk about money, you ignore money. If you don't talk about sales, you ignore sales. If you don't talk about systems and processes, the world says, it's not important. The universe is like, oh, they don't think sales is important because they don't talk about being a salesperson. So I don't care if you join my company. I don't care if you join somebody else's company. All I care about is that you go out there and get skills that fit in your world. And a lot of the coaching out there, because I've spent $1 million in coaches and events in my life, over $1 million. I've had a lot of great coaches. I've had a lot of coaches that were trying to figure it out, kind of like me a couple of years ago, trying to figure it out. A lot of the reasons, Cody, is because they want to teach you NLP. Well, NLP in itself is like a 5-day course just for the basics, because I have an NLP certification. Then you got to do the second round of NLP, which is another 7-day course. It's $30,000 to become NLP certified.
Yeah.
You don't need to be an NLP certified coach. You just have to learn how to communicate and listen and tonality and cadence with people, because the way that we speak right now is totally different than when I'm talking to these prospects.
You hear us on sales calls, it's totally different. Like, we're in presentation mode. So
yeah,
I think where a lot of people get mistaken is like you hear podcast presentation mode, And then if you were to hear me on a sales call, or you hear Vic on a sales call or on a cold call, the approach that we take is totally different. We drop our tone. We ask more questions. We're more curious.
Slow down.
We slow down. We ask more questions. We're like, what do you mean by that? The important thing, and kind of wrapping up here, is that one of the most powerful things that you can do is role play. But the second thing that I'll end this podcast with is, please, for the love of God, record your calls. The reason you need to record your calls is because something that has been a trigger point for us in our business is when I started dropping calls into their client Slack channels, the clients started realizing that they were the issue. And it's even
for those who don't know what Cody does, Cody runs an agency that attracts potential buyers and sellers. They also then take those buyers and sellers that have been attracted through social media. They run them through their ISAs. They create appointments, and then they live transfer those appointments from his call center to the agent. And the agent, oh my God, you guys, they botched the live transfer where the person's like, I'm interested in learning more about what you do. They might not be like, I'm ready to buy tomorrow or sell tomorrow, but they are interested in continuing the conversation.
So get this, Vic. Like, this is why you need to listen to your calls, 100%. So I had already done multiple coaching sessions with this client, and we had sat down and we had chatted about, like, using the script. And the guy's like, can you listen to this? Was a very, 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 like, a extremely motivated buyer, $1.7 million budget. And he's like, I know you say preach the script, but I was just feeling like I was free flowing in, and I felt good about it. And I listened to the call back, and he didn't even ask for an in-person meeting. And I said to my client, I'm like, man, like, I'm like, bro, I'm like, can I be honest? Like, permission to be honest? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, you needed to call back this buyer now. Yeah. And this is the script that you need to use. Yep. And you need to use this script because you just said, hey, I'll follow up within 2 weeks. Right. Like, what? Like, what? Like, no, you need to educate the client. This is a buyer. You're going to lose this buyer. Let's do this real quick.
Let's do this real quick. I want you guys to hear the tone shift that I have. And this is like the first thing that my clients always notice. Are like, holy shit, Vic, like, when you're selling and you're talking, it's totally different.
Yeah.
And they're like, when we started to implement and emulate just a little bit more of the neutral language and neutral tonality, all of a sudden people that went from, I hate your company and real estate agents, to like, hey, I really don't mind you, to like, I want you to come over and look at my property. I want you to come over and educate me on these 3 most important things that real estate agents, that buyers or sellers need to know about in today's market. So, are you cool? Do you got time?
Yeah.
Like 20 minutes?
I got 3 minutes. Yeah.
Cool.
I got 3 minutes. I got to hop off.
So ring.
Hello.
Hey, is this Cody?
Yeah. Who is this?
Yeah, Cody May.
Yeah. This is Cody. Who is this?
Yeah, this is just Vikram. I'm with Real Brokers. You had recently been on our website looking at 123 Banana Street. I was curious. I was wondering, what was it about the home that attracted your attention?
I was just kind of browsing. Like we're in the market for potentially in the market for a home, but just kind of seeing what our options are out there. I've been checking Zillow, I've been checking a bunch of other things. We're just kind of looking right now.
Okay. Now, just for time, I want to point out a couple things. Cody, did you feel like there was any stress or any cold call or any kind of resistance pop up for you?
Not really, no.
Did it feel a little conversational? Was I overly like, oh my God, hey Cody, it's me, Vikram, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
The other
the neutral tone is massive. Like, it's something that we've been even working with our setters on, is that, if you notice what Vic did there, he said Cody May, and then he hopped into the script because he wanted to get the double confirmation. Sometimes our ISA agents will do a one confirmation and hop into the script, but he utilized a lot of ums and ahs to make it sound more natural, to make it sound more neutral, to make it not feel like a cold call, make it feel more conversational. Because if you think about even the way that you would talk to a friend on a call, you'd be like, hey, like, using that type of like language can really help reduce the sales resistance, so they don't feel like they're getting called by, like, it's almost like me and Reed were talking about this the other day, almost like the confused old grandpa.
Man. Yeah.
The confused old man on the call. Like, it's like, oh, it's just like, we saw that. Like, so something we do, and like we get agent, we call agents all the time. And something that our team has gotten really good at is, we start out the call and we get them all the time. And you'll appreciate this. And like anyone listening back to the podcast would be like, you guys. So we named our company Sheridan Street. So we're always like, Vikram Deol. And you say, yeah. No, this is just, Cody May getting back to you. We saw that at one point in time. This is actually Cody May from Sheridan Street. Does that ring a bell?
And if they know Sharon, then it's always like, oh my God, what?
Well, what's happening? Not even if they know Sharon. When we say like, hey, it's just Cody getting back to you from Sheridan Street. Does that ring a bell? They immediately think home. They're like home on Sheridan Street. So we got them hooked in right away.
Yeah.
Like because they're like, I'm not familiar. I don't remember Sheridan Street because they think it's a listing appointment. So we get them like pretty much immediately. But like finding something
that's really good. I was thinking about I was thinking about the prospect being like the homeowner, not the real estate. I was in real estate mode. I was in real estate. I was like,
we added that in. We added that into the script. Like, does that ring a bell? Like, Asher from Sheridan Street, and I listen to the calls now, and it immediately drops sales resistance because they immediately think that like it's a listing appointment.
Well, so, even like the beginning of the call, and this is something that I've learned over the years, and it's hard to break it out of me, but I had a speech coach when I was in like fourth grade. I had a third grade. I had a stutter and a lisp. And so I was trained as a kid to perfectly speak without the oohs and the ahs and the ums. So I have an ability to even catch myself like right there. I wanted to go, when I'm in presentation mode, I've been taught as a kid to not do that. When I call you, I'm like, ring, ring. Hi. Is this Cody? Like it automatically, like, I don't say, is this Cody? I'm like, ring, ring. Hi, Cody, Cody May. And it's really slow. It's really calm. And then it's like, it's just Vikram because just his familiarity. And then I don't say, hey, the reason I'm calling, because who says the reason I'm calling? Telemarketer. Hey, the reason I'm calling today is because my CRM popped up and blah, blah. It's like,
blah, blah, blah. It's like, I'm just getting back to you.
Information. You had requested some information on our website about 123 Banana Street or this, and this. You guys, you have to slow down.
So something else I'll mention as well. The verbal cues are massive. Something else I'll mention as well is like what we find if you're doing your old cold calling out there, if you're calling your lead, something that I've realized through listening to live transfer calls is something our agents have added to homeowners because I'm telling you, my inside sales agents are better than most real estate agents for overcoming objections.
Your inside
because they do it all day.
Make more calls in a day. Than most agents make in a year.
So something that we've realized through language patterns, through listening to calls, is oftentimes what they'll do is they'll be like, at one point in time, we have seen at one point in time, you've requested information. And the reason that we say at one point in time, you've requested information is because it allows them to think about, well, maybe I did do this. Maybe I did request information at one point in time. So at one point in time, we've seen that you requested some information around whatever the offer is. Right. So maybe it's, first month mortgage payment on us, or maybe it's $0 down on all renovations, whatever the offer we throw at them. We saw that you requested information at some point in time. Mm-hmm. And the reason we say do at some point in time, because even when people opt into, you could opt into something last night, they forget. It's like, I've had people book appointments, fill out everything. I had a guy the other day who booked
they don't remember.
Like filled out an entire application.
Yeah.
An entire application. Like he told me exactly where he's at, how long he's been in business. And he's like, yeah, I didn't book this. I'm like, bro. I'm like, so he wrote stop on the CRM. So like, I called him. I'm like, you booked an appointment with me, bro. Yeah. I'm like, is this your business? And he's like, yeah. He's like, yeah. And then he finally admitted that he booked the appointment.
Yeah.
He just didn't want to show up. I'm like, that's
because we just don't want to get sold. At the end of the day, people don't want to get sold. And they, in a moment of weakness or in a moment of clarity, I call it, other people call it weakness, but in a moment of clarity, we realize that we don't have quite what we think we have in our business. And you saw the ad pop up. serendipitously, and you're like, oh, this is perfect. And then the next day you're like, oh my God, I don't want to get sold.
Exactly.
Because people don't like
this. You get this.
So then
you get this fear, and you get this fear of like, you know, and I've had it before. Like I'll give you the perfect example. Our 3 minute wrap up is going. I'm gonna wrap up with this because I think this is super important for everyone to understand.
I love it.
I sat down with Chris the other day. Chris, like, who's your sales coach? I sat down with Chris the other day, and I went into that call saying, I'm not buying. I'm not buying.
You told me
gathering information.
You literally told me, you're like, Vic, I'm not buying. I'm not doing anything. And I'm like, bro, everybody needs a sales coach that isn't their buddy. And you're like, maybe.
Maybe.
I just want money. So, I just want to know what the offer is.
I just want to know what the offer is. So I went in and I ended up like, you know, running the numbers. I'm like, you know what? Like if I this is the important thing, guys. This is the important thing to realize is that everyone has access to funds. It's just whether they believe it's going to work for them or not.
Yeah.
It's really what it comes down to.
It's just what's riskier. What's riskier at the end of the day is
staying where stay where you're at.
Yeah.
Or get to where you want to go. What's riskier? So,
and I've spent
wrap up with that.
A lot of money,
and so have I. So
have you. And we made good and bad choices.
Yeah, and maybe this is a bad choice. Maybe this is a great choice. I don't know. At the end of the day, the important thing is you are a real estate agent. You are a sales professional. You need to invest into some sort of education to learn how to effectively communicate. Because I've listened to far enough live transfer calls, and 95% of the time, it's not the lead. It's how you're speaking to the lead. So we're going to wrap up with that. Vikram, thanks for role playing with me today. And thank you for tuning in to another episode of the RE Agent Podcast. We'll see you soon.
Hey, and do us a favor, you guys. If you got some value, share this, like it, comment on it, subscribe. We're on so many different platforms I don't even know, but you know the platform you're on. Do the right thing if you got value. And if you didn't get value, then just block us for life. But if you got some value, which I can't imagine you didn't, do us a solid and give us a little bit of social love.
Give us some love. We'll see you soon.